So I'm just going to tell a few stories. And some of these I'm going to ask my siblings to chime in a bit. But one of the things about my dad, one of his favorite phrases was this phrase that we lucked out. He always would say, "We lucked out." So I want everyone to say all at once, "We lucked out."
We lucked out. We lucked out. We lucked out.
Okay, good. All right.
That's right. What is it?
So we're going to be saying that. So this is a.
Ignore me.
Okay.
I think we're gonna need the tissue box here already. I know.
Okay.
I was looking for
Time
it.
out, sorry.
So this is a lot of this is what we might consider to be family legend and lore. So some of these stories are not going to be that familiar or not known at all to some of you, but to some of us they very much will. So one of the things that my parents did when they were younger with us is they went to Woodstock, and I think we're really proud of the fact that our parents went to Woodstock. And so the real story is I think you took the motorcycles up there and you had to hike and it wasn't easy, through the mud and it was raining and all this stuff. But like we've kind of, I think in our heads we've elaborated that the picture of the guy with the topless woman on his shoulders dancing and everything. It's our parents. But you made it there, and of course, Dad thought you lucked out. You went and you were there, and it was great. So some of these other trips that we have, and I don't think you guys may remember this too much, but when we went to Lake Placid, that was one of our first trips, and we went out on a boat fishing. We rented a boat. We got these huge life preservers. I think Kim felt like she was being held hostage as we went out on this boat. And we're out there on the lake, and it started raining. And, we didn't catch anything. There was, no fish at all. There was no way we were going to catch anything. And it starts raining and lightning and everything. And we took the boat. We went under a bridge for shelter from the lightning. And, of course, Dad said, "We lucked out." Then there was one trip we were we were looking. This is funny. We were looking for wildlife, and we had heard that there were these bears, and it was literally a garbage dump. We drove to this place, and sure enough, there was a pile of garbage, and there were bears all over. So Dad says, "We lucked out." and so we sat on the top of the car. I was, you know how you remember some stories. I remember sitting on top of the car, and the bears would eat the garbage, and they look over, and they're like, "Oh, there's people over there." And so they start slowly walking towards us. We're on top of the car. So we jump down, we jump into the car. I was stuck on the top of the car, but Mom, you grabbed me by the leg and just and you're like, "We lucked out, let's get the hell out of here." So then there were other trips. There was a trip up to Buffalo to visit Mary and Phil.
Oh, yeah.
And this was a Thanksgiving trip. And this was, no offense, this was a horrid trip. This was we didn't get out of New York. On the way up, I'm talking about the trip up. And of course, when you're a kid, time is longer. Everything is longer when you're a kid. 100 miles is like a whole day in your mind. So
That was the longest trip in my whole life to Buffalo. I'd chime in on that.
All right, so we
Yeah,
go,
I
we
will
go
never
up
forget.
And it took us probably an hour, 2 hours to get out of New York City up to Buffalo, and then somewhere around Liberty, New York, the taillights of the car went out.
Is that all it
And
was?
it's dark, and we still got so far to go. We might have been going to Rochester. No, it was Buffalo. I think it was Buffalo. And so we're stuck. And there's a tow truck that goes by, and he leads us to a gas station, and they fix the lights on the taillights. It takes about an hour and a half, and it's probably close to midnight. And Dad says, "We lucked out."
That one, I do remember that one.
Yeah. And then there were, of course, some real stories where we really did luck out. And that one of them was up in New Hampshire. My dad was a teacher, as many of you know. So we went hiking in New Hampshire, and there was a snowstorm. And we had a brand new guide who took us on this trail. And we walked we were about 2 hours, it's starting to get dark, it's starting to snow.
It was with a class, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
the
the class. And I was in junior high, so I was one of the younger kids just tagging along. And so it started snowing, and the guide, the rookie guide, she suddenly turns around and she says, I don't know where we are. We're lost. Hi, Karen. We're just starting to talk. So we're lost in the woods, in the snow, in the cold, in New Hampshire, with a guide who doesn't know where we are. And so she says, well, let's all make fires, and people whose toes are cold, have someone else rub them and take your shoes off. It's probably like the worst guidance in the wild that you could ever have. And I have to say, at no time did I really think there was a problem, but it was like, well, this can't be right, you know? And so at a certain point, Dad and one of the other teachers said, all right, everybody get up, put your shoes back on. We're gonna start marching, and we're gonna go in one direction until we hit something. And it's dark and it's snowing, but we were like, at that point, we started getting warm. And we started going towards, onto a trail and then off of a trail where we saw some barbed wire. And we thought, all right, barbed wire, people, you know. Then we followed the barbed wire to a barn, and then we got help, we got out of there, we were fine. But of course he said, we lucked out. So then, of course, the story that so many of us know is the story about the turning point in my parents' lives, in which my dad kind of had a vision, I guess it was. It started off, this is another one. He thought about you, and then he hitchhiked up to Vermont.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Right. Now, of course, over time, this has become, he woke up screaming in the night.
Yeah. Right.
Something's wrong with Sally.
Right.
Yeah.
Hitchhiked, you know, had a trucker who talked to me. It was like, it's very romantic, and it's a wonderful story either way. And the point of it is, it doesn't really matter how accurate it is. It's about how it felt. It has about how it feels, and it still is. It was still such a great story. And you know, that was kind of like the original, the first one.
Yeah.
But I think what he was really saying when he said that was that he was very grateful. He was lucky. He was very grateful. And so he was always returning that gratitude through his generosity, through his empathy, through his strength. He gave that to everyone. And so one of the last stories is, I think, when we went golfing, Marty, and Jim and I, and Marty got a hole-in-one. This is the last time that my dad ever golfed. Marty got a hole-in-one. And I was like, we lucked out. It was a great thing. And you know, it was the fact that neither of us had to get that hole-in-one. The fact that Marty got it, it's like we all did it together.
Yeah.
So it was really nice.
And they saw it and I didn't.
That's cool.
Right. But the truth is that he may have felt like he lucked out. But the truth is, by knowing him, by being part of his life, we can all say, all together, all of us,
We lucked out.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice. Good job, Kev.